I can't believe it, but we have made it to the end phase of our extended fast. This video is really aimed at those of us who have gone the full distance, or somewhere between 6 and 9 days. Amy and I were just talking about the beauty of this phase and getting to this phase is that now you really are in your full power of fasting. And what I would say to that, and what I mean by that is, you could really go for as long as you wanted to go at this point. And you know, you being the expert and your own really architect in this fasting experience at this point, I guess what I mean to say is 10 days or 17 days or 15 days, this is the point, in my opinion, where you're really just kind of in it.
Right, it's true. You pick up momentum, your body gets really used to this. And you know, there are certain people who may not want to go to 20 days, but the ones that do, you know, feel invited that it would be okay. Now, if you're having any symptoms that start coming on, you might want to discuss it with us, or you know, or absolutely your physician, just to make sure. But your body gets into a mode of being much more accountable to you with its energy. So it's giving back to you the energy that you were using before for so much digestion and so much inflammation and so many stressors. And this takes a lot of the stressors away, so it gives the energy back to you. Like we were talking about in the earlier videos, this type of nutrition is a very giving model. It gives everything and doesn't take anything from you.
So you, it's probably really, you're feeling amazing probably at this point. I think by now, for me, typically most of the, you know, cravings are gone. Most of the urges to eat food for me are gone. And I won't say that there's not any difficulty left. I find that there tends to be a day or two, maybe in the midpoint and maybe a day in the, just where I sort of maybe think about food, but generally speaking, very easy to walk through that now. Much harder to walk through that on, say, day 2. On day 8, you can just sort of, oh, it comes up, wow, okay, you just keep walking through. So this is a beautiful point of an extended fast. It's something to be really congratulated on, to make it and sort of go this far and take on this challenge. It is a challenge. There's nothing easy about this work. The reward for me is well worth the challenges, but I think it's worth, you know, just giving yourself a, you know, high five, a yay, I did this. And now you have a lens to just how beautiful extended fasting work really is.
You know, and I would like to say, if during this time you were even keeping a journal, you're going to be kind of amazed at some of the insights, because the rest that you're giving your body and your mind is going to kind of expand your ability to see things in a different way.
Yes.
And why not start recording that, you know, or even starting that from the beginning, you know. But in the extended fasting is where you're going to really be able to really see some of the things coming out, not only from your body, but you know, even emotionally, mentally, that needed to kind of be seen in a different light. So journaling for that is quite therapeutic, and also would give you an insight into this first experience, so that you can always have it kind of as a reference for yourself.
And that's a great idea. I'll actually maybe talk about that and add that to our future fasting work, because I do think being able to look back on sort of what you thought in the early phase, the mid phase, and now is totally different. What changes do you think are happening in the body at this point? Once we've been drinking juice, we're sort of dialed in, autophagy moving forward. What's happening now? Anything specific at this later phase?
You know, a lot of times we talk about like the free energy system of solar power energy, which is the sun comes into the panel and it creates electricity, but it doesn't create any smoke, it doesn't create any exhaust, it doesn't create any pollutants, and it's basically free energy. So you're kind of, at the extended juice fasting stage, you're kind of like a free energy system, so to speak.
Okay, that's a great analogy.
So you can think of yourself as just being powered by solar energy, and that's exactly what it is. So if somebody's asking you, you know, what the most important part of juice fasting is, you're going to say where I'm experiencing the closest I can to solar power energy for myself. And so if you can think of it in that light, then that's a doable, that's something that someone can understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they won't think you're crazy for drinking largely green juice only for 9 days or longer. So I think too, it's important to be willing to take on the possibility that all of these things that we probably created now as rituals or habits. I talk a lot about healthy rituals. Maybe you've been doing tongue scraping, maybe you've been doing body brushing, maybe you've been visiting infrared sauna, maybe you took on a client, you know, all the things that you took on, which I personally believe are incredible elevations for your health. All of this work for me is about chasing good health, about looking better, feeling better, doing better work than I did the day before or the week before or the month before. I have said a few times that I think that modern aging is somewhat mythical, and we can really determine how that presents itself in our own vessel by the choices we make. And for me, extended fasting work is a lot of sort of turning back that clock.
I think for me, I think extended fasting for me is more kind of a mental aspect, because I feel a lot more clarity.
Yes.
And so the clarity for me is where I really dive into being creative. I use it as a lot of monks have done throughout the ages. They would go into hermitage and they'd go into fasting and they'd go into prayer. And in those situations, it became an influence for them to dial into their intuition,
Yes.
to dial into deeper aspects of where you make decisions from, not just from a reactive mode, but you really check in with your gut. You might check in with your heart. Your brain is kind of on this kind of even keel, so it makes it easier to actually make your decisions with what I call the other two brains, because there's this old saying that you only use 90% of your brain. And I very much believe it, because I think all the other parts of your brain are below the neck. I think your heart is quite an organ of change and thought. I think your gut is an organ of change and thought. The gut acts in the moment to keep you safe, but it also gives you a way to make decisions based on all the other experiences that you've ever logged. And so trusting that and trusting making decisions with your heart, instead of just being in constant mode of reacting and making the neck up being your only mode of being able to think, which is quite limiting. In this, you're only going to be that crazy boss lady that runs around, and your body reflects those types of
Yes.
decisions. So now you're more plugged in, your brain is more even keel, you're able to dial in the other brains of your system with what I call, you've got 3 brains, this one, and this one. So plug them all in, and it's this time that I really feel that they come into alignment. Almost like a planetary alignment within our body. Like, okay, my planets are aligned, and it's a really wonderful time to be able to take that and do something with it powerful.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You probably accomplished a lot of things. I know I said in an earlier video, I think inside of our Facebook group, I always tend to take on several projects during an extended fast. Not projects that require, you know, some huge
lumber.
effort, right? But rather, I choose several segments of my home particularly, and I get rid of things just in my environment that aren't serving me, because, you know, as you said, for you, it's a lot of kind of emotional clarity and vision. And for me, I like to use it also to get rid of things around me that aren't serving me. So my closet is always a number one. I can actually tell you that in my annual fasting, sort of long fasting period, I actually do get rid of a lot of things that aren't serving my highest good, my highest self. And you know how your closet gets, it's just stuff everywhere. Drawers in my home, I pick a few and I clean them. And again, these aren't huge tasks or projects, but you just feel so much lighter. When you're creating space and flow in your environment, you just feel better. So I've done a lot of that, and I'm sure I will continue. There are lots of options available to you at this point. And so I just want to talk through those. One would be that you could continue fasting. So because this fast ends in 9 days, that's because this particular, you know, this is the way we just sort of designed it. That doesn't mean your fast has to end in 9 days. I'm not entirely sure if my fast is ending in 9 days. I don't know if Amy's fast is ending in 9 days, but you can consider the possibility that this feels good for you and it's not time for you to be finished. And that is your decision and your decision alone to make. You could extend with additional juices. You could extend to fasting. You could transition into a water fast. You could transition into intermittent fasting, which would be a way to do that would be that you would enjoy liquid before lunch, that by being juices or smoothies or water, and have a great dinner. That could be that you maybe do one more day of fasting and, then do an intermittent fasting schedule. There's just a lot of options. So I invite you to be your own expert and determine what's the best path forward for you. If it is time for you to really, be finished with the fasting process, that this is ready for your time to sort of be closed, right? Then I want to talk about how best to break the fast. We've been operating on solar fuel now. I think that's a great analogy. We've made it super easy for our bodies to get everything that it needs in a really perfect fuel source. Now we're going to really need to be careful as we're exiting. So this is the way that I typically break a fast, and I'll have Amy share her way. Again, you are the expert in your body, so you're going to be looking at the best way for you. And there is a third way, which I have never done personally, but you break the fast with fruit. I've not done that method, but what I typically do is I'll wake up on the day following when I'm gonna break my fast that first morning, and I'll typically have a juice or a smoothie. And then I'll typically have a smoothie again for sort of that next part of the day. And then I'll either have a vegetable soup. It's got some nice steamed veggies in, or I'll have a super small salad with steamed vegetables on top. So that the vegetables are nice, they're soft, they're easy to digest. And when I say small salad, I mean pretty small. Because your body is, it is sort of contracted. It doesn't have the space that it had 10 days ago. We've got more space included, and we don't want to just immediately fill that up again. So that's typically the way that I break a fast. Do you have any?
Yeah, that's pretty much the way I break a fast too, I have to say.
Have you ever done it with fruit?
Well, I will sometimes begin to introduce small servings of very easy to digest and chew fruits, like, watermelon or something that's
right.
just really, not
Easy.
something like really hard and crunchy, but I would do kind of like a mushy fruit, and that helps.
Okay.
I do like maybe a small serving. The issue is that you've had like no sugar and no insulin spikes, so I would not recommend at this time just going to a full fruit juice fast.
Right.
Because you've been very alkaline, so I would keep it on the veggie side of things.
Yes.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. And again, I've just read about people breaking longer fast with fruit only, and that has not been something that I personally have tried. So, do your research. There's, information. We do not live in the land of scarcity. So, information is there. You can kind of do your own research there. But so there's some options for continuing this work.
Oh, and I have one other too. You might actually, we talked about nut milks before.
Oh yeah.
But you can actually make nut cream. Typically you would not want to eat nuts during the time that you're coming off of a fast,
right,
because they're just very hard, and they would take a lot of digestive momentum. But if you do soak them and sprout them, you can just Google or YouTube, how to make your own almond milk. You can see how to do that in your kitchen. And the good news about that is that you do have a nut that's much easier to break down when it's soaked for 24 to 48 hours, as well as sprouted. So it becomes kind of a different entity. It's not that hard to digest,
right,
mealy nut. It's very different in consistency. So making your own nut milks and keeping some of that nut cream in it. Nut cream is the byproduct of blending your nut. That actually helps a lot for people to feel like they're getting a little more full and kind of introducing more whole foods back in. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the nut milk because I do like a little extra protein, and then also, it's a great way of getting calcium right into your bones. this is a great form of calcium, but the nuts as well, soaked and sprouted and blended, are a great source of calcium as well. So
that's an option.
An option
is to go by way of nut milks. Also, I would recommend, I think you probably would too, that we avoid animal fleshes for a couple days. If you're gonna, if you are a meat eater and you want to obviously add that back into your dietary lifestyle, then just wait a couple days to maybe add that back in, add it back slowly. Same with, cow's dairy, other, processed foods, less pure foods, potentially, not bad foods. Everybody's got choices that what works for you. But, maybe those things that are a little bit harder for us to digest and typically speaking, not as perfect for us in terms of fuel, that we just add those back in. Also, I would invite you to just uncover the possibility that even if you are a super healthy eater, I would say that I'm generally speaking a pretty healthy eater. I probably sometimes still eat too much, probably in excess. And one of my big takeaways from a fasting experience is and will always be, whoa, I was just eating too much food. I don't need that much food. And so I think that's a brilliant takeaway. I'm sure you're probably feeling that too.
Definitely resets your hunger meter and resets your ability to feel when you're full, or just don't even eat till you're full anymore, just until you're just not hungry anymore. Also, it's an invitation to continue the pro-life choices. I mean, if you want to be a real pro-lifer, this is pro-life choice every day to eat and drink plants. And so the more vegetable-based decisions you can make are just going to make your gut flora better, the alkalinity of your body and fighting inflammation better, your immune system is going to work more on target, your brain is going to thank you for it, because the true nutrition is going to get to where it needs to be for the flow and go of your busy life. So just ask yourself if the invitation to continue this food-based diet is right for you, and if it is, consider not going back to the milks, the cow milk and the red meat. Consider it maybe off your plate for now, just to see how you feel to continue a solid food vegetable-based diet.
Yeah, that's another option. Maybe do a month of trying out or looking through the lens of being a vegetarian, potentially a vegan. There are lots of options to do that. But the idea is that now you are sort of in uncharted territory as your own explorer, and you're leading the expedition. And so, it's up to you to really see which of those things kind of land and feel really good. You have made it through sort of our guided fast. It's an amazing accomplishment and something that you should be proud of. My hope is that you feel amazing. My hope is that you have a really uplifted sort of feeling about yourself, about your total body, that you've learned that the sort of physical, emotional, spiritual body are all connected, that you've learned about the three brains, that you've learned what it feels like to be powered on and existing on pure solar fuel, and that you've really overcome probably some skeptics around you that thought you were crazy, and you've really been sort of a beacon for holding true to this work. So
and that's true.
That's a lot.
Being a beacon to your family, because a lot of times they're going to follow your role model, your choices, and you're going to show them how much you appreciate, respect yourself by giving this back to yourself. And they may want to be curious about how it tastes, and this is something to introduce to your family as bringing more vegetables into their diets.
That's a really good point. Also, I would love to hear your personal feedback about this experience. Just to the volume of people that were interested in the work and that participated in this, it says to me that, our time is ready to do more of this work. And if there's something we could do to enhance the experience, I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear about your personal experience and your journey. If you would like to share it, so you can reach out to us, either Dr. Coleman or me at any time. We'll obviously provide our contact info for you. But I have been honored to be on this journey with you. I'm thankful that you were along for the ride, and I hope that the sort of experience and the new lens that you have by which to view your life going forward is different.
And I am so thankful to have this space to be able to give this look back on my history, and going forward inviting you into it,
Yeah.
so that we can all go forward in larger numbers with these great choices. Thank you.
And with this community.
And for this community. We can only grow and get better together. It's harder to do that when we're isolated, so let's keep growing the health food bubble, and finding people that work for you are the ones that uplift you, motivate you, inspire you. Hopefully this will help make you allow you to make decisions in your own life as to who you want to hang out with from now on. If your Facebook group is better than your group outside of Facebook, find a group outside of Facebook that matches the ones that you like.
That's right. Again, thank you for doing this with us, and I have been honored to do this with Amy and to be your guide. Have a wonderful day, and let's keep the movement going.